If you're sitting down for more than 2 hours a day, you need to watch this video, all right? And why? Because sitting down is going to be impacting your body in a myriad of ways. I'm going to talk about a few of them. So, when you're sitting down, you're sitting on your butt, you're sitting on your hamstrings. There is no circulation. There is very little circulation to your legs at this point. Your entire legs are going to start to be tight. If you're wearing shoes, your feet are going to get tight. Your calves are going to get really fucking tight. You're not going to have strong legs, you're not going to have stability, you're not going to have good balance. So, what starts to happen as you're sitting, I know this is getting pretty heavy pretty quick here, huh? When you're sitting, when I'm sitting, I know, and the only reason I'm making this video is because this is what I deal with, and this is what most people in the American workforce are dealing with at this point. And that's lower cross syndrome. I'm going to talk about what that is throughout this video. So, when you're sitting down, there's no energy in the back of your legs, so when you stand up, you're going to use the front of your legs. It's only natural. So you kind of lean forward, you stand up like this, your quads are active as you do this. What starts to happen is you do this repeatedly over the course of your days. You go to a meeting, you come back, you're using the front of your legs to walk around. Watch the way I'm walking. I'm picking up my feet and I'm dropping them, and then I'm putting my weight onto my foot, picking it up and dropping, picking up and dropping. Toes are not being used powerfully to push myself forward. So we're going to start to see a difference between when the quads are acting and when the back of the legs are acting to move us. So as I was talking about earlier, when we're sitting down all day, there's not a lot of energy in the hamstrings. When we go to stand up, we use the front of the legs. However, if we used our bodies the way they were designed, we would be exploding off of our chairs using the back of our legs to thrust our hips forward. I'm not doing this perfectly because my hamstrings aren't exactly active at this moment. But you can see the difference between something standing up like this and standing up like that. Do you notice the difference there? I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit. So we got this, one more time, that, and then we've got this, where we're leaning forward and then coming up. So, what happens when we activate the quads a lot is the low back starts to get tight because the hip flexors are connected to the quads. When the quads are active, the hip flexors are going to start to get active because the hamstrings aren't active. So, when the hip flexors are active, the low back starts to get active because the hip flexors connect your quads to your lower back. They're like, the iliopsoas is a muscle that goes from the low back through your hips to the front of your hips. I'll include some pictures at some point. I just need to get this information out there. This has been sitting in my brain for a long time, and I've heard countless, like dozens of people come up to me complaining of low back pain, complaining of, oh, my back doesn't want to straighten, or my hips are really tight. And it all leads back to this same shit that we're dealing with as a society. Pardon my language there, Mom, if you're watching this. Okay, so basically what we've got here is an issue. The low back gets tight, the quads get tight, the hamstrings get weak, the booty gets weak, and the core gets weak. Because when the hip flexors are tight, the low back starts to activate, and the low back starts to do the job of the core. The core's responsibility is to stay tight and keep all your organs in the place where they're supposed to be. So, by the way of illustration, there's a difference between this. You can see the way, this is something that a lot of people face, is this forward tilting of the hips. So you can see I've got, my belly kind of comes out a little bit. There's an arch in the low back. The quads are very tight, and there's a difference between this and this. See the difference there? This versus this. So, the idea, what I'm going to teach you how to do in the coming videos, is to get from this, where your belly's sagging, to this, where you're standing powerfully rooted through your legs, so that you can move and attack your life powerfully. So, thank you for watching.